All right, we're back talking again about David Patrick Harry. This man is an exceptionally ignorant man when it comes to discussing Protestantism. And we're going to look at a few points in this video he has from a couple months ago called Joel Webbin's Complete Ignorance, Dying Protestantism and the Rise of Orthodoxy. And it's just his response to Joel Webbin's video about orthodoxy or whatever. So anyway, there's like five places we're going to look at here. And we're going to listen to what David says, and we're going to analyze it, and I'm going to show you how ignorant this person really is when it comes to discussing Protestantism.
Men are finding refuge in the Orthodox Church. Hey, brother, wake up. Protestantism has failed. It's a failed experiment. It's a failed project. It's part of this Enlightenment understanding and this elevation of reason, and that's why...
Whoa. How in the world is the Reformation, is Protestantism, how is that a failed Enlightenment project? Is this guy not aware that the Enlightenment happened after the Reformation? Let me read you here from Wikipedia. All right, here's the Wikipedia article on the Age of Enlightenment. Let's read it here. Let's read here. The Enlightenment emerged from and built upon the scientific revolution of the 16th and 17th centuries, which had established new methods of empirical inquiry through the work of figures such as etc., 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 etc. There's no relationship between the Protestant Reformation and the Enlightenment. They're mutually exclusive. I don't know how to tell. I don't know how he messes it up so wrong. Protestantism is not an Enlightenment project. It's not built upon Enlightenment principles. Now, he said that they built up reason. It's a rational thing. And now this is going to get a little hypocritical from him. So let's listen in.
Their criticism of Eastern Orthodoxy, they say, oh, they don't even have like coherent doctrines and theology. It's just all mysticism and experience. No, it's not. What? How ignorant could you be? Have you not read the Church Fathers?
What? Read the Church Fathers? Read the Church Fathers. Have you not read the Church Fathers? David, what's that called? That's called rationalism. Is that not rationalism? Is this not the rationalism that you're railing against? Reading a book, figuring out what's in the book, and believing what the book teaches? I mean, that's what this guy hates about Protestantism. Oh, they just wrap their words, and they try to understand the book. That's what they want to do, and it's all rational, and it's out. There's no mysticism or whatever in there, and we'll get back to that part about the lack of mysticism, alleged lack of mysticism in Protestantism. But let's continue here with 2552. This was at 1631, and we're going to 2552. Bear with me for a moment. We might have commercials too. I really hope not. But if it happens, it happens. So here we go. We're almost there. 2552. Here we go.
The Protestant Church, that Protestantism lacks a true Christian foundation and essentially is part of an Enlightenment project.
No, it's not essentially part of an Enlightenment project, nor does it lack a Christian foundation, since what was the cry of the Reformers? Ad fontes, to the sources. Where did they go? They went to the Bible. They went to the Hebrew. They went to the Greek. That's why, biblical studies basically comes out of the Reformation. It's from them that we get these critical editions of the Hebrew and Greek text, and that's what their doctrines are based upon, is the Bible. What are you talking about? And you might say, well, sola scriptura, what about tradition? They didn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. They didn't throw out tradition. They didn't start all over again. They kept Nicaea. They kept Chalcedon. They kept Ephesus. They kept those doctrines. I mean, it's just nonsense.
These Enlightenment projects essentially promote things, again, the Enlightenment philosophy elevates reason, elevates rationality, makes this the sort of sole interpreter of truth. And we're going to be talking about this.
Okay, so what he's saying basically is that Protestantism is an Enlightenment project, and it's completely rational. No mysticism. No mystery in there. Now I'm gonna read you something. I could read a lot of things, and I'm just going to read one thing. And this is from the Westminster Confession of Faith. Okay? This is a standard Protestant catechism and confession that this guy is definitely not familiar with. And we're going to read from the larger catechism. Question number 66, right here. Question: what is that union which the elect have with Christ? The union which the elect have with Christ is the work of God's grace, whereby they are spiritually and mystically, yet really and inseparably joined to Christ as their head and husband, which is done in their effectual calling. Now, what in the world is rational about that? Nothing. There's nothing rational about that. That is spiritual, that is obtained by faith, that is mystical. It says it right in there in the text. Mystical union with Christ. Now, we're going to go to another book here, talk a little bit more about that. This is from Reformed Dogmatics by Heinrich Heppe, which is a compendium of many Reformed people. It's not just one, it's a compendium of many, many Reformed people. And if you don't know this book, you should know this book, especially if you are Reformed or you want to know about what the Reformed actually teach. Now, this guy, hopefully he'll read it one day. So this is from chapter 20 on calling. There you go. See that? Calling. And we're going to go right down over here on page 511. And it says, according to its real nature, the calling of the elect is thus an initio in Christum, or unio cum Christo, a real, wholesale, spiritual, and indissoluble union of the person of the elect with the divine human person of the Redeemer, so that for the former, the latter is exactly the same as soul is for body. The implanting of the elect into Christ is thus the beginning of all appropriation of salvation, of all fellowship in salvation and in glory. What is rational about that, David? What is rational about that? That is spiritual, that is mystical, that is something that is comprehended and grabbed onto by faith. It's not rational. I mean, it's not irrational either, but it's not what he's saying. It's not, nobody from the Enlightenment would ever think of saying such a thing. In fact, many of the people in the Enlightenment were antichrists. Voltaire, the most important man of all of the Enlightenment, one of the most important anyway, said that he wanted to destroy Christianity. So now we're going to go to 2733. And this one is even more hypocritical. It's unbelievable. So here we go, 2733. Here we go.
Constantly modernizing, it's constantly progressing because progress is an essential element to the Enlightenment tradition. And so it lacks any sort of foundational historical Christian tradition because even from the beginning, Zwingli and Luther and Calvin, they're already disagreeing and creating rational argumentation for why their interpretation is true versus this interpretation and why people need to be part of their group. It becomes literally a personality cult where the...
Oh my gosh. Okay, so he says one of his criticism is that Zwingli and Luther and Calvin were all fighting each other and having their own rational arguments. What do you call the whole early history of the church, David? Here's volume 4 of a history of the councils. What is the history of the councils? It's an account of the churchmen going back and forth, debating, making rational argumentation. Making rational argumentation based on the scriptures, based on what has come before. You know, here's probably one of the most contentious of all of them. Is this guy, St. Cyril. And you can read this, St. Cyril of Alexandria and the Christological Controversy by John McGuckin. Cult of personality. I mean, hello, St. Cyril of Alexandria. A guy that had a strong personality and wielded that personality for the good, of course, during during this controversy at the council. So this is just hypocritical for him to talk about that, talk like that. That they were arguing back and forth and it's rational. I mean, what does he even mean by rational? What does he even mean by rational? He hasn't given a definition. He doesn't give it a definition. And he's tying this rationalism to the Enlightenment. But as I've shown you, as you should know, the Enlightenment comes out of the scientific revolution, which has nothing to do with Protestantism. And many Protestants were against the Enlightenment. And in fact, the Enlightenment was against Christianity. Christianity, both Catholic and Protestant, it was against. So we're going to skip over here to 156:58. And David says something here. I'm not sure if he just spoke wrong or what, but it's worth taking a look at here because If you don't know, the Orthodox doctrine of salvation is, you got this energy essence distinction, right? God has his essence, which we cannot know. We cannot know God's essence. And then he has his energies. That would be like, love, that kind of thing. And that's how we know God, is through those energies. Yeah, it's a commercial. It's a commercial, just like I said. It's almost done. Almost done. All right, here we go. So you got this energy, essence, energy distinction, and we can know God through the energies. We can't know God's essence, but we can know him through his energies. Like I said, love and that kind of thing. So let's listen to what he says.
This is why in their own theology, they can't really... This is why the energy essence distinction is so important. How can you come to know the essence of God?
You cannot come to know the essence of God. That is called eunomianism. You cannot know the essence of God. The essence of God cannot be known. That's what the energy energy distinction so much underscores. We know God through his energies, not through his essence.
By definition, your created mind can't. That means this overemphasis on rational comprehension of the Godhead that Protestantism and its Enlightenment project focuses on is ridiculous, because we engage directly with God. God is a participation of persons. We participate. We engage directly through the uncreated energies. And you see this.
Right. Let me go back to the Westminster Confession of Faith. It's a participation in God. That's what the Orthodox teach, right? Well, like I said, here it is. What is that union which the elect have with Christ? The union which the elect have with Christ is the work of God's grace, whereby they are spiritually and mystically, yet really and inseparably joined to Christ as their head and husband, which is done in their effectual calling. What is that if not participation in God? You are really united to him, mystically, spiritually, really, and inseparably. That's what it says. So this is just more nonsense. And he said, how can we know the essence of God? Well, you can't know the essence of God, so I think he might have misspoke there. But we're going to go on to one more point, and this is towards the end, at 2 hours and 36 minutes in. This is a 4-hour stream, and this is going to be focusing on a stupid comment made by Jim Bob, who also seems to be very ignorant of the Protestant Reformation. Here we go. We're almost there. 2:36, 45. Oh, here we go.
Are going to take themselves seriously, that aren't just going to constantly condescend to whoever's most offended.
I love this comment by Jim Bob. Shout out to Jim Bob. He says, Protestantism is about the person. Orthodoxy is about the person of Christ. That is so on point, and gets back to, again, that Protestantism being rooted in the Enlightenment and that rational individual.
No, this is just totally wrong. Protestantism is not rooted in the Enlightenment. And Protestantism is not about the person, the human person. It is about Jesus Christ. Once again, these guys don't know what the heck they're talking about. And I would really recommend you read a book like this, The Westminster Confession of Faith, where Christ is exalted in every one of its pages. In the whole page, throughout the whole book, Christ is exalted. How we can know Christ, what Christ has done for us, how we can be united to Christ. All those kind of things are there. Union with Christ is a big thing for the Reformed. For John Calvin, it was a big thing. For these guys to say it's just rationalism is complete and total nonsense, slander, libel, and just goes to show that these guys have no idea what they're talking about. None at all. None at all. And it really sickens me to hear this kind of stuff being spread by Orthodox influencers like this guy, because he is a big influence on people. People call him up on his show and say, I'm glad that I listened to you and you got me to go into Orthodoxy. So, whatever, good for them. But he's not giving people a correct view of Protestantism. Number one, it's not from the Enlightenment. There are no Enlightenment values in Protestantism. Protestantism predates, the Reformation predates the age of Enlightenment and the scientific revolution. Number two, the Enlightenment thinkers were all basically little antichrists in their own way. Number three, many Christians were opposed to the Enlightenment and its values. That's a historical fact. Yet this guy wants you to believe that Protestantism is just this rational enterprise where it's my Bible and me. I got my Bible, and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to comprehend. There's no mysticism, there's no faith, there's none of that. And as I showed you from the Westminster Confession of Faith, that is wrong. That is wrong, and that was just one doctrine. That was union with Christ. That's one doctrine. It's not a rationalistic endeavor, and so we've been going for a little while here, and it's probably enough. So that's it. Bye-bye.